Welcome, you're listening to the Debugging Dan podcast. Join me on my morning walk. The topic I'm talking about today is the AI bubble and if it's about to crack. So the past few days there have been some news reports or announcements that at least to me are an indication that there are some price hikes and other changes coming in short or a little longer term. So one of the announcements was for GitHub Copilot that they've stopped taking new subscriptions because they have capacity issues. They're not taking any new subscribers, and they're also looking into possibly decreasing the limits that every user has. So probably also without a price decrease, so you're getting less than what you were paying for earlier. A different announcement is, or a different thing is that also at Anthropic for cloud, they have been doing some experiments with reducing the session limits. They state that they, when people were using the cloud code subscription for OpenClaw and other activities, if they were having some capacity issues because of that. They have also been experimenting with offering Cloud Pro without enabling code. So for 20 euros, you get access to Cloud Pro, but you don't get Cloud Code. They say they're just doing a pricing experiment for like 2% of the users, but it does show that they are looking into changing there. There was also an announcement for AnySphere, the company behind Cursor, is that they have entered a partnership with SpaceX. They're at minimum in a partnership agreement for like $10 billion, with the option for SpaceX to buy AnySphere for $60 billion if they want. And for Cursor, that is positive because they now can have access to the they get access to the compute SpaceX has. So SpaceX is because they bought XAI, they now have their compute available, which is like a million GPUs or something like that. Cursor is in a desperate need to become more than IDE only, so they have their Composer 1, Composer 2 models, and for SpaceX, they want to probably get the data of programmers using Cursor to be able to train their own better models based on, because the Grok model that XAI develops is not one of the best models, so they probably want to increase its capability. And for the last news report regarding SpaceX, it's an Elon Musk company. I leave you to your own opinions, but I'm not a fan of Elon Musk, so I'm a bit hesitant about that news since I am an avid Cursor user. But I don't like that it's getting mixed in with Elon. So I'll be watching closely how that will develop the coming weeks and months. So those are news reports showing that there are changes coming in the AI landscape. And I guess the question is, what might the impact be? What will be changing? And I think one of the things that we can conclude from this is that capacity is really becoming an issue as more and more people are using it and more intensively. So it means if there's scarcity with regards to complexity, the price will be going up. they need to work harder to get the system up, to keep the system up. When they need to work harder, there's scarcity, the price is going to go up. Also, probably with regard to the IPO plans for some companies like Anthropic or OpenAI are planning IPOs, then burn rate of money, profitability becomes more important because you want to please your stakeholders. But what does that mean for me or for you or for developers in general? I think it's important to don't buy into a single tool. So make sure that you're able to work with Cloud Code, with Codex, with Cursor, but also with VS Code. So don't go all in one tool, and when they hike that price or when they exclude you even from using the product, you start back at zero. And I think it's also important that you build a custom, not really a custom, but you build a toolbox so that you're able to combine and diversify on models. So for example, what I mean by toolbox is that you might be using AI to generate your specs or your requirements, which is not really code generation, but more ideation. On the other hand, you might do use code generation. So make sure that you're able to use different models and different tooling for that. Also for testing, reviewing, just make sure that you have an open mind and are able to use different tools. You might even write your own testing harness if you're technical enough and have the capacity to support that. That's what I'd advise, since we don't really know what's coming next months, I guess, not really years. I think weeks is a bit too soon. But the coming months, we don't really know what's coming, what companies are going to do, what the power capacity, the compute capacity, investors. There's still also an energy crisis that's forming with the Strait van Hormuz at Iran. Gasoline is getting more expensive. Inflation is probably going to go up. So those are all factors that play into make sure that you're ready to diversify. Looking at the tooling realistically, I think that the biggest chunk of the work you're doing with coding or implementation. So if you'd like to diversify that, there are a couple of options. One of the benefits is that we're using Visual Studio Code or Cursor or any Visual Studio Code powered IDE, is that almost every company provides IDE plugins for that IDE. And so within your favorite IDE, you're still able to use agentic tooling. You're just, it works a little different. And what you mostly need to get acquainted with are the quirks of how one model behaves differently than other models, that you might need to do more planning with one or do more planning with the other within the same IDE. And the people at the Z IDE, I made a different episode about Z already. They have created the ACP, so the agent protocol, how you can easily, that allows you to add an agent implementation to your IDE if it supports ACP. So that's Z, but also JetBrains IDE. They support ACP, and ACP is also then supported by Claude. It's also supported by the Cursor agent. So that means that you're really able to use the same IDE, and the GUI or the implementation that you see works similarly. since the ACP is protocol only and not visual. So that's a good option. Of course, if you're not using IDE and CLI mostly, then it's more about getting used to the tooling, be able to switch easily. I guess that's the most important part, that you need to diversify in your toolbox. MCPs work the same across tooling, so those connections all stay in place and stay the same. And of course, if the differentiator is mostly in costs, what would also help is to be critical at what model you're using. So if you're for example using Claude, and mostly using the most expensive model with thinking all the time, so it's Opus, and you often burn to your session limit, but you manage it. And if they make it more expensive, or if they reduce the session size, it makes sense to differentiate, to, for example, only use Opus for the thinking tasks. And the other stuff, the implementation itself, use Sonnet. So that's also something you can do yourself, and that depends on what the impact is from the model provider. How you can, if the differentiator is mostly cost, how you can get more out of your subscription by doing the same, but with a different model. That's also important to look at and see how you're actually using it, instead of just giving a basic prompt, having the AI run loose, and then try to reel it back in with a different prompt. But it also makes sense there to be more critical at what's being generated, be more refined with your prompting, and focus also on that. So there's also changes to be made if something happens by switching your provider, spending your money elsewhere, but also looking at yourself and how you're using the model. And for now, I've been kind of generic about where to switch to, but there are also less bigger providers. You could also look into the open code subscription. There are also some less bigger providers, ZAI, Kimi, I believe there is. You could also wire it up using OpenRouter and pay for only the tokens directly without having the subscription. That's up to you, but make sure that you're prepared. You could even be doing local model execution. And I don't mean directly buy an expensive GPU and rig. You could also have a look at what you can manage on your MacBook or PC right now with local models. That's it for this time. I don't mean to be a doomsbringer, and I guess that the vibe of the episode is pretty negative, and it might not even come to this, but I think it's good to be prepared to make sure that you have alternative and fallback plans in case things do change. So that's it. If you liked it, or if you have a different opinion, let me know. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, in Spotify, on YouTube. Leave a comment there, and I'll get back to you. Have a good one. See you next time.